This is me attempting to explain how the internet works before I started research for this video. I think it has something to do with sending signals or information through the air, maybe by electricity, and pretty sure there's cables and phone lines maybe included in there somewhere. Not my proudest moment by any means, but I thought it was so crazy that this thing that we use every day that takes up so much of our lives is still an enigma to a lot of us. So here began my quest to understand the internet. It was an uphill battle at first. It seemed so vast and daunting, and I had no idea where to begin. So I started where anyone would: Google. Of course, there was so much information to sift through, and it was difficult to know where to start. I went from webpage to webpage trying to get the overall gist of what the internet looked like in a big picture sense. Surely it didn't really look like those messy glowing spider webs you always see. Such a complicated piece of technology must have some structure to it. Here are my findings. The internet allows every device that's connected to it to communicate with every other device that's connected to it. This is usually represented as a big interconnected graph which spans the entire world. So in this sense, those glowing web pictures are right. But it does this through an extremely ordered hierarchical structure. At the bottom of the hierarchy are your individual devices, like your personal computers, laptops, and mobile phones. These are all connected to a local area network, which is a computer network that connects devices within a limited area. This means you can communicate with other devices within your local area network without being connected to the internet. The local area network could just be all the devices within your home connected through your router. The local area networks are then connected to the internet service providers, which are your local telephone or cable company. These are organizations which provide access to the internet. At the moment in the diagram, your computer is only connected to devices that are under your local or regional internet service provider. So then to connect to the rest of the world, the internet service providers are connected to the next link in the chain, the network service providers. These are basically at the top of the internet hierarchy. The network service providers connect to other network service providers all over the world. And it's at this level that your device has access to any other online device across the globe. This highest link is often referred to as the backbone of the internet because it's what makes global communication possible and is effectively the gateway between all devices. So if I were to send a message to my friend Sophie in the UK, it'd have to travel from my computer to my home local area network, then up to the internet service provider, then to the network service provider where it'd be transferred to another network service provider, and then travel back down all the layers until it reached her computer. So that's what the internet looks like. But how does it actually work? So there are two main components that make the internet possible: the hardware and the protocols. The hardware are your physical things like your computers, your phones, the wires that connect these things, and the protocols are kind of the way that all of these things communicate with each other. So the way I like to look at it is that the protocols are kind of like the language of the internet, and the hardware are the tools that allow you to execute the language. So that's the big picture view. Now it's time to get out our magnifying glasses and start zeroing in. I had a bunch of directions I could go from here, but I thought the best thing to explore would be the hardware, as that's what I'm most familiar with and what I had access to around the house. There were so many different pieces of hardware to consider: modems, routers, Ethernet cables, computers, phones, telephone wires. How was I going to learn about all of them and how they worked? One by one. Seriously, it was too complicated to know how they all worked together without knowing what each one of them did. It was like trying to read a sentence without knowing what any of the words meant. It was like trying to cook lasagna without knowing each of the ingredients. It was like trying to play a song without knowing what any of the notes were. You get the idea. So I googled them all separately. It was much easier to fit them all back together after that. But the great thing about studying the hardware was that I actually had pieces around the house, and so do you. You're watching this video on the internet right now, right? So I went and tried to match what I'd read with what I could see. Let me show you what I learned. So now we're going to investigate the home computer and see exactly how it connects to the internet. So this is it right here. And if we open this guy, we can take a peek inside, and this here is called a network interface card, and every computer needs one of these if it wants to connect to the internet. So the computer is connected to the local area network through this card, which is connected to this cable here, which is called an Ethernet cable. So if we follow this guy, we will get to where all the magic happens, this box here, which is the router. See? I don't know if you can see, it says router. If my camera will focus, there we go. So this box lets all the devices in the house connect to each other. So at the moment it's connected to the computer by the Ethernet cable, but it's connected to my iPhone, my iPad, the printer, all wirelessly. But the router actually doesn't connect your devices to the internet, it just connects them to each other. So to connect them to the internet, we need something called a modem. So let's take a look. Where is the modem? Well, actually, this is a modem as well. It's a 2-in-1. A lot of the time, modems and routers are sold as a single entity because you need both of them to connect to the internet. And it makes sense that you would want multiple devices to all connect to the internet. So now, how does the modem itself connect to the internet? Well, if we take a look at this wire here and follow it, la 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 la, boop, 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 to here, this actually branches off to the phone line. So the setup at your home might be slightly different. It might branch off to your cable company or something like that, but the idea is the same. So the modem branches off through the phone line and goes to your internet service provider. So then what happens when it gets to your internet service provider? Well, this part is actually really interesting. Hundreds of thousands of miles of wires or wireless towers are laid throughout the world, mostly underground and underwater. They range from phone lines to fiber optic cables to microwave towers. Single lines can span thousands of miles, like the underwater transatlantic communications cable that connects various parts of the US and Canada to Europe. Now that we've got a pretty good idea of the hardware and structure of the internet, it's time to look at the other main factor, the protocols. How exactly does my computer in Australia know how to get to Sophie's computer in the UK? How did the text from this message travel through these wires? Why can't I just do this? The answer is protocols. You're probably familiar with the word protocol as a set of rules to ensure that things go smoothly. Every workplace has a different protocol for when there's a fire. The protocol at my university was to blare the fire alarm really loudly while everybody sat around waiting for it to stop, including the lecturer. The protocol for sending a letter in the mail is to write who and where the letter is addressed to, stamp it, and send it off, sometimes with a return address. The internet protocols just ensure that all the communication between devices goes smoothly. There are actually so many different protocols that make up the internet because it's so huge and complicated, so we're just going to focus on the two main big ones: the transmission control protocol and the internet protocol. The transmission control protocol's job is to make sure that your message gets to the right application on the destination computer. If you were sending an email, it would make sure that it ended up in whatever email app you use. Most of the time, the message you want to send is too big to be sent all at once. So the transmission control protocol breaks the message up into fragments called packets. It assigns each packet two pieces of information: a port number, which tells it which application it needs to go on the destination computer, and the information of where it belongs relative to all the other packets, so the message can be reassembled when it reaches its destination. In a physical letter, the port number would be kind of like when you write a single person's name on the letter so you know who it's for once it reaches the house. The packets would be as if you cut the letter up into little, more manageable pieces, and the reassembly of information would be, well, the reassembly of information. Not my best analogy, I'll admit. But when you send a letter, you can't just write the person's name on it and expect it to reach them. You need to write their address. This is where the internet protocol comes in. When the transmission control protocol is finished splitting your message into packets and assigning them all port numbers, it passes it over to the internet protocol. The internet protocol's job is to make sure all the packets get to the right destination computer. But how does it know which computer to send it to out of all the computers in the world? Well, how does the delivery system know which house to deliver your mail to? Every house has a unique address, and likewise, every device connected to the internet has a unique address. This is called an IP address, and it looks something like this. The device you're using to watch this video has a unique IP address. The Internet Protocol encodes both the destination computer's and the source computer's IP address on each packet. So now that each packet has the address of its destination computer and what app it needs to get to, it's converted from alphabetic text into electrical signals to be sent through the phone line. Here it starts its long journey through the internet. I often get taken by this sudden urge to get to the bottom of how something works, and if you're watching this video, I'd bet that we have that in common. Lately, I've been learning computer science on Brilliant.org. Brilliant is a learning website with a wide variety of courses on subjects in math, physics, and computer science. These courses are designed with problem solving and intuition in mind, which makes them perfect for those of you who want to learn by yourself. Always been curious about quantum physics? Brilliant has a course on it. Never really understood what calculus was all about? Brilliant has a course on it. These courses are meant to teach you real understanding, not just rules to help you pass exams. You can even join me in learning computer science with my weekly episodes about the latest quiz I've done. Signing up is free, and for premium membership, Brilliant is offering a 20% discount to the first 200 people to sign up with this link. Just go to brilliant.org/upandatom. Link is in the description. I hope you enjoyed the video. Are there any other things that you feel like you interact with on a daily basis but you have no idea how they work? If there are, let me know in the comments. Until next time, bye!